raise that bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear. And today I've got the very fortunate guy. I get to sit down with Maria Mountain. Maria Mountain with Revolution Conditioning, and kind of not a new project, but a project that you've been working on for quite a while with the kind of the goaltending, right? And working with basically online and helping out goaltenders, I guess, probably across the world, really, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's goalietrainingpro.com.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like there's, goalies in Hong Kong and Mexico City. And, it's like, so it'd be like, I'm an ice hockey goalie in India. It's like, how the hell do you become an ice hockey goalie in India? No doubt. Good for you. Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
No, it's amazing. The whole online business, we were talking a little bit before, but the whole online business and the whole online resource is unbelievable now, and where you can get stuff. The only problem with it is for parents that are out there is there's so much stuff to dissect through, because we were talking earlier about posts that come up and it's something terrible that you would see as as a professional working in your field, or I would see it and it's like nails on a chalkboard for me, and you get posts on the bottom that this is amazing, I can't wait to, oh my God, my kid's done 500 reps of this, and you're just like, oh man. It's scary, right?
Yeah.
And how do parents dissect through that, right? And how do they know what's right and wrong if you don't know,
Yeah, and I think one of the tricky things is that, and you see it too, like sometimes goalie coaches will come up with, I'm coming up with this great drill because it's kind of like what we do on the ice. And it's like a lot of times in strength and conditioning, as you know, what kind of makes common sense isn't actually the right thing.
Yeah.
So it seems on the surface like, oh, this seems like a really good exercise, but it's like, well, not so much, And so, it's just trying to, educate what to look for. And then too, I think it's just, if you want to try to take the straightest line to success, then go to someone who has a proven track record of helping people get from point A to point B, rather than trying to sort of wade through your Instagram feed and piece this and that. It's like making a car. Like, it's like, if I want a car, I'm going to go buy a car. Don't just start at the junkyard and be like, oh, here's a pile of engines. Yeah. Okay, now I just need some wheels.
And I guess a quick question on that, but let's say I'm a parent. I don't know much about goaltending. I don't know much about that. Maybe I never played hockey before, so I don't really know where to start. What advice would you give a parent that's looking online in order to dissect through maybe 30 websites or 30 YouTube, videos about goaltending? Like, what are some things that you would say, look for this and this, and or ask people, or get on forums online, or what are some easy ways that people can dissect through those kind of different, all that kind of white noise or all that static?
I think one of the things that I would do is look like, is the person giving this advice someone who runs a successful camp or a successful program already? So, is this Eli Wilson?
Sure.
Is this video from Eli Wilson goaltending?
Yeah.
Okay. He's been around forever. He runs great camps. This is probably going to be some good advice. Yeah. That's just one example. And my videos aren't Schindler's List, like it's not, but it should be like somebody who actually is committed to, creating this content and putting it out and making it understandable for you. I think maybe the third thing to look for is, are they responsive? So, if you ask a question, do you get an answer, and do you get an answer that makes sense? I think
that's a really good point. Yeah.
It's hard to wade through it all, but I think
I think the first one's great. I think you're right. Like now with the internet, really, I mean, if somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, Maria, I'd like to get a job. I'm a really good strength coach. My name's Johnny Smith. I'm awesome." What's the first thing most employers do? You're going to Google that person. You're going to Facebook. You're going to check them out, and really within a couple quick searches, you're going to find out some stuff, like good or bad, doesn't matter. But if it's crickets and there's nothing online about this person, like, okay, he did say he worked at this place or this place, you can look it up. Like so now it's hard to be a bit of a pretender, right? So I think for parents, I think it's important for them to do their due diligence when they are going to put money towards different products or different things that they're going to be doing, whether it's online or on ice or in the gym or whatever it is. I think it's important to go through that process. And vet the people that you're going to be working with or putting your money with, you know?
Yeah, because just because you're enthusiastic about something or you have a passion for coaching or being a strength coach, you know, until you've actually earned your living doing that, you know, like I might be really passionate about orthopedic surgery and read lots of books about it. And I've had lots of surgery, so I have tons of experience, but it's like, you don't really want
probably not going to operate on me.
want to go under the knife with me, you know? So it's, and I think coaching and strength and conditioning is sort of this, you know, there are a lot of people who are just like, I think I'm going to be a hockey coach, or I think I'm going to be a strength and conditioning expert, you know, on the interwebs. And it's, so I always think like, would you go to an orthopedic surgeon who just like decided, I'm going to be an orthopedic, forget the school and all that stuff. I don't really need that. I think I'll just be a surgeon.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And you see it all the time. You see with gyms popping up and these training centers popping up all the time. And I mean, we'll go through kind of our your background a little bit too, because we've known each other for quite a while. And, you know, if you think of all the time that we've known each other, which isn't crazy long, but a good 10, 15 years, how many gyms have you seen come and go around the area? Like, it's unbelievable, right? And you've managed to stick around long-term. We've been able to stick around long-term. And I don't think it's by accident. I don't think we have a really good location and we have a good set of handcuffs that we can handcuff people into our debit machine and give us money. It's one of those things where I think, you know, we've surrounded ourselves with some good people. Obviously, we're passionate about what we do, and I think we have knowledge on what we do. And I think the one thing that I can say firsthand with you is you've evolved with how things have changed. You know what I mean? A lot of trainers and a lot of strength coaches, a lot of exercise physiologists get stuck in, I used to do it this way, and you know what I mean? And I think you've really evolved with obviously the game and all the clients you work with. But you know, I think that's important too, right? And I think a lot of times for strength coaches and on-ice coaches, it's okay to say no, or hey, my bad, I messed up. Or you know what? Yeah, you're right. Maybe we shouldn't do that. And I think that goes a long way for parents and for our athletes to be like, okay, yeah, like they're understanding. They kind of get it, you know. And I'm sure you've seen a lot, you know, in the areas that you've been in, where you know you get both sides of that. You get some that are very outgoing and open and good with change, and you get some that are just fossils and they get stuck in the old kind of ways, you know.
Yeah, I definitely see both sides of that. I think, and I don't know, again, if it's the people I surround myself with or if it is changing a little bit, but it seems like there is more generosity than there used to be, you know, with people thinking, oh, I've got a secret. And I was like, nothing's secret. You didn't invent anything, you know, but yeah. Yeah,
no, exactly. So for you, kind of your growing up, I guess you're obviously always very, very athletic. And what were your sports of choice, or what were your sports that you were super passionate about when you were growing up, kind of going through elementary and high school and university?
Yeah, I mean, elementary, all of them. Like I just, you know, I was a little tomboy and just wanted to rip around and play with the boys. So, you know, and again, I just feel so blessed to have grown up when I did, because even organized sports weren't what they are now. So even, you know, the boys that played, you know, there was no organized football. There was sort of soccer and hockey, but, you know, that would be once a week or something. And the rest of the time it would be, you know, run home after school and put on your football gear or your, you know, road hockey gear and head to, you know, Doug Cameron's backyard or Glenn Gill's drive. Had the smoothest driveway. You know, they had the only concrete driveway in the whole neighborhood. So that's where we played road hockey. But, you know, so that was, you know, that was it. I was Ken Dryden in road hockey, not a bad little Ken Dryden, and Roger Staubach in the backyard football. And then our family skied. You know, my dad had us on cross country skis when we were 2 years old, and you know, on the weekend it would be like, we're going skiing, and you'd be skiing until you were in tears.
Right.
Like,
you know, I don't want to go skiing.
But it's funny because I actually remember my dad, and I was probably 11, if not 12 years old. And my dad, we're in the car, and we were driving on Sanatorium Road over the Byron Bridge, probably going for a run in Springbank Park. But my dad said, you know, Maria, you're never going to be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And and it was a little bit of a shock, because that was pretty much my career aspiration. Like, okay. And bless my dad, because, you know, he said, you're not going to be tall enough. You're not going to be able to see over the offensive line. He's like, that's going to be a problem.
Valid.
Okay, like nothing to do with the fact that I'm a girl, you know. But yeah, I can see your point. He said, you know, you'd be better like skiing, running, you know, some of those sports, and so that sort of got me going. I always really enjoyed cross-country skiing. When I got into high school, then they had cross-country skiing. And, in elementary school, played basketball and track and field and all that. In high school, played basketball, ran cross-country, did some track, but did cross-country skiing. And, had some good success and really, really loved it. I love the discipline of the training and really having to push.
Bagger.
Yeah.
Like that's a hard sport, man.
Yeah, it's a hard sport.
Yeah.
And I love just having to push yourself.
Yeah.
Nobody's there to push you. So, so I did that and did that as my varsity sport in university and moved to the Yukon for a year to train
No way,
there.
did you really?
And yeah, my goal, I like everybody, I wanted to make the Olympics, and so I gave it my all. And
So when did you go there? Like first year university or second?
Right after first year university.
Okay.
So I
you
took a year
off. Cool.
Yeah, they had a program a lot like what you've set up, but it was with the college, the affiliated college. So we only had classes in the morning, and then we could train, and they had really good coaching, and we could race, all over Canada, and obviously lots of snow. So it was huge. Yeah,
That's
it
cool.
made a huge difference.
Now, going into a program like that where you're basically probably working on your craft almost every day, right? How much better did you get from the start of that year to the end of that training year?
Yeah, it was
crazy?
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Just the technique, the strength, the stamina, it was.
That's cool.
It made all the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So how did that end up paying? Like, did it end up, I don't say paying off, but did it help you get a lot closer to qualifying or to kind of getting in and kind of reaching that goal?
Yes and no. And things changed a little bit in the time. So at the time I was trying to do that. Probably if you were top 5 or 6 in Canada, you'd be going to World Cups and things like that. In the year that kind of was the target year that I want, like sort of the first year that I thought, okay, maybe I could try for that. Canada sent 1 skier.
No way.
So it definitely helped me improve, but it also proved to me that I don't have the engine.
Right.
I didn't have the minimum requirement to ski at that level.
Yeah.
So it helped a ton in the sense that now at the end of the day, it's like, oh yeah, that was a goal.
Yeah.
But I don't look back and think, maybe I could have, I couldn't have, I tried and, I was maybe at the very, very best, 13th in Canada,
Gotcha,
I wasn't, you need to be 1, 2, 3 to really get those tickets. So it was and it was sick and I made tons of friends and,
And pretty cool experience, even, maybe not at the time, kind of maybe meeting, that's always tough you're a little bit older at that point, probably 18, 19, 20, but it's always tough to go through those realizations at that time in real time. You're like, holy man, I'm working my tail off and I'm not getting there. But when you look back now as a strength coach and a professional in your field, it gives you probably a really nice perspective of buddy, you're probably not going to play in the NHL as a goaltender. You're 5'9". You just don't have that body. You know what I mean? You can kind of see things now a little bit different where you're like, man, no matter how hard you work, unfortunately, sometimes it's not the cards. Now, not to say that you couldn't come in, help me out with my pro training or help me out with, or whatever, right? There's other ways that we could get in that later, but it probably gave you a pretty neat perspective on just man, my body just can't get me to that number 5 spot or 4 spot or.
Yeah. And I think it's, even with the goalies that I train and the athletes we train at Revolution, it's the value is in trying your best.
Yeah.
To see how far you can get.
Yeah.
And whether because for me anyway, at the end of the day, I have a great satisfaction in the fact that I tried.
It's amazing.
And then when I watch those athletes ski or skate or row or whatever, I don't think, oh, that could have been me. I think, wow, wow, that's amazing. Look at them.
Yeah. And you have such an appreciation because you've been there. You've been training with those people and now you train those people and you get such an appreciation for the work they put in. And you being an athlete, you get what that is, right? Which I think it changes the mentality of how you approach training as a coach. Yeah. When you've been there and you know what it feels like to almost puke after a rep or whatever it is, right? I think it definitely, it helps. It helps make you a better coach, I feel anyway.
Yeah, I think so. And you know what it feels like to win and you know what it feels like to,
Yeah, no, for sure.
Shit the bed.
So after your parents shipped you off to Yukon, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a little hard to manage. Yeah.
So after boot camp,
Okay, I was in prison.
we skied a little bit.
Busted.
Yeah, we skied.
Yeah.
So when you got back, then obviously finished your undergrad at Western, right?
Yeah. And then I picked up my undergrad.
And what was your undergrad in?
It was in physical education back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we
Were you
didn't
going
have
to-
fancy words like kinesiology.
That's
we were
right.
phys ed
That's
grads.
right.
Yeah.
That's back. Like you guys used to like use a hammer and a chisel to do
That's
your
right,
notes,
yeah.
right?
And then we got chalkboards, little chalkboards
yeah,
that
yeah.
we could write
Oh, yeah,
notes on.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then were you always thinking of going into the exercise physiology, exercise science, like the whole anatomy part, or were you thinking of maybe being a teacher? Or were there other things that you were or did you always have a kind of a set goal on what you wanted to do when you were done?
No, I wasn't really thinking of anything other than I like gym.
Yep.
And Western had a pretty good ski team at the time.
Okay.
So it was like, I'm going to go to university and ski.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I didn't really have a plan.
Yeah. So when did that kind of shift for you? So you graduated and wrapped up kind of skiing, I'm assuming, or did you continue skiing after that?
No, I wrapped up
Yeah.
when I finished university, and and then I just, it was interesting because it's like, well, I guess I'll just get a job at a gym, and it was
Yeah.
like, well, that's not as easy as it looks, and I finally got a job at a World Gym on Springbank Drive. And I actually bumped into the guy that hired me probably a couple of years ago, and I thanked him because, without him, I don't know where I would have ended up. But pretty much the way I got the job, and it was a big meathead gym,
Yeah.
and the way I pretty much got the job, he interviewed me, we chit-chatted a little bit, and then he said, and there were a lot of bodybuilders that train there, and he said, "Do you see that guy over there?" And this huge bodybuilder guy, and had just finished doing whatever, like, I don't know what, pack flies or something. And he had like,
school.
60s, the 55s, the 50s, the 45s, the 40s, like all like scattered around his bench. And he's like, go tell that guy to put his weights away. So
Really?
I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, oh my God. So I'd be like 23 years old, 24 years old. So I went up and, with my booming voice said like, excuse me, sir, would you please put your weights away? And he did.
Yeah.
And so I pretty much got the job. But it was,
That's
we were
awesome.
talking about how different it is now. So I got hired for that job. I don't remember what it paid. I think it was like maybe $9 an hour or something like that. And so I had to phone in after, I think it was 6 o'clock the night before, to see what appointments I had for the next day.
Okay.
Like, so every day.
Yeah.
So it would be like, I'd phone in at 6 o'clock and they'd say, "Oh, you've got an appointment at 7 in the morning, 9 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, 8 o'clock at night, and 9 at night." Awesome,
Yeah. It was a good 16-hour
Sick.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
Man.
how I started.
There you go. And it's been just amazing ever since, right?
So only gone up from there, yeah.
Now, did you end up going back to school?
Yeah, I did, yeah. So I worked at the World Gym, and then I got a job at a clothing store.
Nice.
North by Northwest.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good Canadian company.
Yeah. And then I got actually hired as a kinesiologist
Okay.
for a rehab company. It was really interesting experience because you got really good at dealing with all kinds of different people. But and then I just was like, okay, I can't do this anymore because it was sort of by the time our company got hired, there was sort of issues with the, it was through motor vehicle insurance,
Right.
and there would be sort of issues with the claim, and so it was hard, sort of motivating people to do some of the exercises and things like that. So I thought, no, I think I'll either go back to school, or you know what, maybe I'll get a job at Good Life and work my way up to be like a regional manager or something like that. And I interviewed at a Good Life with a woman was really nice, and I've seen her, throughout my career, and I really respect her. But at the time I said, well, I've kind of got this idea that, if someone plays tennis, let's say, we could give them exercises to help them play better tennis, and, or hockey, sort of like sport specific training before it was a thing. And she was like, that's a really, really great idea, but our business is selling memberships. And it was like, oh yeah, like I get it, like this is a different business.
Yeah.
So I went and I registered to do my master's degree in kinesiology now
There you
in
go.
sport medicine. So I study with Dr. Peter Fowler.
Yeah, cool.
Looking at rehab after knee surgery. And I thought, and I actually wrote the MCAT because I thought I'd go
wow.
to medical school. And then when I was applying, I was like, I flunked my 2 math credits in first year, or my half math credits. I flunked them both in first year. So I was like, how do I calculate that into my cumulative grade point average, I wonder? So I phoned up the registrar at Western, and I was like, I'm not sure how to calculate that. Like, what mark would I give that? She's like, you'd give that a 0. So when you calculate a 0 into your GPA to get into the doctor's school, it didn't fly. So you know what? Thank my lucky stars.
Yeah.
Thank my lucky stars.
Yeah, it would have been a different path for sure, man. Yeah. No, definitely. And then from there, did you get into physio a little bit after that, or did you get right into training following your master's?
Following my master's, I got hired as the exercise specialist at Fowler Kennedy.
That's what it was. Okay.
And so I spent 5 years there doing the exercise rehab for the athletes who'd been injured in the physio department. And that was fantastic.
Yeah,
that
cool.
changed my whole approach
Definitely
to things. Yeah.
Because there's some high-end athletes that went through there. You had a lot of Western athletes, I'm assuming, right?
All the Western athletes. And
then other high-end athletes, like real elite athletes that have come
that's
through
where I
there.
met Jeff Hackett, started working with Jeff.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And just to, I'm a nerd, so I'd go to, they had research rounds and they had orthopedic rounds, and you could go and sit in on those and listen and learn, and it was amazing.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then was it after that you went to Velocity then?
Yeah, that's when our paths crossed. Yeah. Okay. So from there, I went to Velocity. Yeah.
Which was actually probably a pretty good gig at the time, like as far as being kind of managing that facility. The facility was unbelievable. Oh, God. Like, it was beautiful. And I remember coming in. I don't think I knew you at all then. Maybe
I don't think so.
Kind of, but I was in the same boat as you were. Like, fast forward a little bit, but I'd kind of finished playing hockey, moved to London, didn't know anybody, but I loved I did exercise physiology. I loved the training part of it and the on ice piece. But I felt like I was going to potentially be more of an off ice guy at the time. And then this new sport training training center was opening up called Velocity, and I'd heard about it. And I came in I think I just applied and interviewed and however it all happened. But we had a really cool crew there the first couple of years year, I guess. And it was a lot of fun. And I learned a ton. I learned a ton from you, obviously, and just learned a ton by working in that environment with athletes. Even though some of them were younger, you learn patience, and you learn that maybe you don't ever want to have children. That's why I waited so long. It was the best birth control ever. But I learned a ton, and it was a really, really cool experience. And, and obviously made some good friends, through that time, and met a lot of people in London, through Velocity, which is really cool as well. Not that we have to get into it, but things kind of went a little bit. It was amazing for a while. And then I think you and I wasn't super tied into it. Like, you were full time there, you were running it. Like, you were and I was part time. I was in and out. I was doing more sales and training, but I was literally trying to hold my life together financially with duct tape and bubble gum and make sure I could pay my mortgage, because I just bought a house, and I was single, and I was just doing 7 different things. So I was kind of all over the place, but I had a feeling, especially when I got into the sales part of it, that it was kind of like your experience at Good Life. I felt like everyone that walked through the door was just a dollar sign, and I didn't like it. I was like, man, I just didn't like that feeling. And I know I was getting kind of weird vibes, and I think, you and I never really talked about it, but I think, sounds like you kind of maybe were as well. And then, we kind of made a little shift.
Yeah. Well, and I think, so again, everything's a great education, and it was a beautiful facility. Yeah. And you're right. At the time, I thought, this is my dream job. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Yeah. I'm going to be right here. And, and I think it's hard too, because there's always a different perspective, and I think it's hard in a facility like that, where you have a business owner who, this is an investment and this is their business. And then you have a coach who's like, I just want the athletes to get what they need. Sometimes it's a little, I think, you have to make, as a business owner, you have to make decisions that are going to try to get this business to survive.
For sure.
But as a coach, I didn't want those compromises to be made, you know, and so it'd be like, well, this kid's 12, but his mom can only bring him in when the 17-year-olds are training. So he's going to train with the 17-year-olds. It's like, you know, no. So we came to an impasse, shall we say, and I was invited to leave.
Yeah. Very well put. Very well said. Very well said.
And that's how Revolution Conditioning started. And so it was actually funny because I remember even when we were there, you know, some of the other head coaches, you know, and we had a great crew. That was the heartbreaking thing for me because we had so much fun and such a great crew there. But, you know, they would talk about, oh, this guy just trains people out of the trunk of his car, you know, and so then I was like that, like training people out the trunk of my car. And it was like, you know what, this is actually pretty good because I don't have to worry about, you know, that was a big facility. That's a lot of rent and overhead and that you have to, that's a lot of memberships that you have to put through before you even, you know, can start making any money yourself. And out the trunk of my car, you know, it's like I'm actually earning a decent living and I'm giving these athletes what they need. And I also learned that, you know, because I thought, man, no one's going to want to train with me because they wanted to train in the beautiful facility. And a lot of people are like, we don't care. Yeah. Like we want good training. So then, you know, it's just one of those things too. I'm at, you know, Dr. Fowler and Mrs. Fowler's Christmas party for the clinic. And I bump into Brian Gastaldi, who is the director of physiotherapy when I was at the clinic. And he had left to start private practice. And his wife, who owns Saffron Road and the building, cool. You know, she said, well, where are you training? And, you know, out the trunk of my car. And she said, you know, I might have a space for you. And so, you know, that's cool. How I got to be on Richmond Row, and Brian's in there, and Brian's, you know, one of my dearest friends. And so it's, that's cool. You know, it's just a perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
My dad used to say, you never know when you're being lucky.
No, it's true. Yeah. And, right. Yeah. But you look back on it now and, you know, and I think that impasse that you talked about is one of those things, and you hit it like as a business owner, and now you're both. Now you're a coach in a business, so you get it. Man, sometimes you gotta do things that are going to help the business just survive for that month that maybe go against what you feel, you know. But when it starts to happen too much, then I think it takes away from that training part, which at the end of the day, I think is the most important. Have that quality and that you know, that hands-on quality that all the coaches have. But you start taking that stuff away, or you add too many players to that program, or whatever it is, right? Then I think that gets compromised, and then no matter how nice the facility is or how good the business is, which we saw a couple of years later, it's just not going to survive, right?
Well, and I think, like, I think I always decide in favor of, and I'm lucky that I've never really been in a position where it's like I have to decide to do something that is not in the best interest of the athlete for the sake of the business. And that's part of the reason why, you know, like, I think we could have expanded. Sure. I think everybody likes a little more space. I'd like a little more space. I'd like a little higher ceiling, but it's like, you know what? I can cover the rent here. Yeah. No problem. Yeah. I don't ever lie awake worrying about paying the rent, covering the costs. And then I can just focus on the training. And like you said, if someone comes in who, you know, like some athletes are perfect RevCon athletes and they have great success and it's just exactly what they need. Some athletes are, you know, TPH athlete. And that's exactly the environment they need. Yeah. It's not, we're not right for everyone, you know, and so if someone comes in who wants to join that just, you know, they're not the right fit or what we do isn't what they need or want, then it's fine too. You know, it gives you the freedom to say, you know what, I think you might be better off down the road. Yeah, no, totally. And that's, you know, and that's totally cool too. I think that's a really key tool to have. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. And I try to, one thing I don't know if where I heard this or where it came up or if I just thought about it one night when I was drinking Coors Light or what. But I always try to, like, every decision I make for our business, I never let the financial part of it dictate what we're going to do. So if we're starting a new program, if we take a loss on it, but I think it's the right program. Mm-hmm. You know, like we started a little fundamentals program a couple of years ago with like little kids. We haven't really done that before. And we took a loss on it. Obviously, the first year didn't have a lot of kids, but I'm like, this is the right thing. Like, I think we can help these young kids get better. And now it's great. Now we got, you know, enough that it makes all make sense and stuff. But I think making those decisions, not because of what you're going to put in your pocket, but because it's the right thing to do. And you feel it's something that maybe it won't maybe it won't catch on, but at the end of the day, I think it's something that may expand into something else or may, is the right thing for the athletes, and hopefully we'll get compensated one day, financially. Right. But I think that's really, what this is all about as far as if you run a good business is now you can't pay rent with good qualities and you know what I mean, and a real good training. So you got to definitely, be smart on both sides of it. But I think, if you are doing things for the right reasons, it tends to pay off in the long run,
Yeah, I think so. Zig Ziglar, I think, says, if you help enough people get what they want out of life, you'll get what you want out of life. So I'm the same. It's like, how can I help this person? And
yeah, no, for sure.
So far, so good.
Going back to right as that impasse happened, you'd left, and then shortly after I left, I was like, it was different environment. And another gentleman ended up taking over kind of your position, and I was like, yeah, that's great. Good luck. And I was kind of good. So when I left, I remember you and I kind of talked, and I kind of jumped on in the back of your car or my car and kind of helped out. And it was again, like, that was the first part of me kind of doing my own thing. I think as far as like, I was already starting to be a little bit self-employed, but not really. And then now I was 100% self-employed because we're doing the Revolution, and then I was doing on ice stuff, and these are all like those little life experiences when you look back, and you're thinking, man, like all these little things kind of help and impact what you're going to do down the road. You know what I mean? And it's really, really cool to see. I think what happened is I ended up going away to coach for a year and kind of dropped everything. I just let everything kind of fall apart. I rented my house out and just left. And I remember saying like, hey Maria, sorry, like I'm going to try this, and good luck with the Revolution. And obviously it did very well, and there's no doubt it was. But, and that was another experience for me that totally, I love coaching and it was great. But I realized at that point that I could get fired at any time, live out of a U-Haul and never settling anywhere. So I ended up deciding to come back, and I was fortunate that, you and I always kept in touch and kind of entered similar fields as far as having strength training, and I do more on ice, but I've always had a good relationship on talking and kind of going through stuff, and, and obviously, sharing a lot of stuff, which I think is huge,
Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's funny. I can picture us going into like national sport or something, and we've got like blue, royal blue Under Armour shirts, and gray, I think they're gray shorts, and we like did a thing for like the school board, and we working with some teams and stuff, and and it's those are the colors still. We got royal blue and gray, and but it is so funny how it sort of weaves, but we've always been on kind of parallel paths, and it's sort of nice to have you as an ally and someone to bounce ideas off.
Oh, same. No, it's been great. And then, so how, from kind of building your business and with Revolution and stuff like that, how did the goalie specific stuff come out of that? As far, I know that obviously you love goaltending, and are you still playing goalie a bit?
Oh yeah,
you are, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You should come out and watch.
Yeah, I might have to bring a video camera, do a little dissecting of the video.
I posted some video actually.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Where are you playing? In a league in town? Or
we just play pickup on Sunday morning, like a group of us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just go and fart around, fall around the ice. It's so awesome. I love it. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Good.
And it's funny because I'm awful and I have no expectation, but I get so sour when I get scored on. I'm like, that was a shitty game. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
So funny.
Oh, that's funny. Have you ever had goalie lessons?
Steve McKeegan and Jason took me out once for an hour. Yeah.
And I'm good.
So I'm good. I pretty much have it dialed in.
Because I always go through this process every time I golf. I'm not good. Like I enough to play and it's fine, and I always get pissed. And I think to myself, I'm like, I never have taken a lesson. I never get any help with this. So why am I mad at this? You know what I mean? And then you go back the next week and you're pissed off again. Like, why am I mad? Like, I'm not practicing this. I'm not, getting any help with this. And now, so when was that transition of like kind of getting really specific with goaltending?
So, I think it was about 10 years ago, I started an online business. It was hockeytrainingpro.com. Yeah. And part of that was, at the time I was, Revolution was going great. It was but it was a lot, 18-hour day, like literally coaching face-to-face 60 hours a week, which is too much. Yeah. So you start to think two things. Holy crap, I can't keep this up. And what if I just slipped on the ice and tore my ACL? I would be screwed.
Yeah.
So, and I don't even know why, but I thought, well, maybe I'll start an online business. So I started a blog and did a hockey training product and things like that. And as part of that blog, every so often, because I always loved goaltending. Yeah, like when I was a kid, I was Ken Dryden. And when I worked at Western, I always loved playing, like working with the goalies. And when I trained Jeff, like it was just, the butterfly was new, you know, and it was like, whoa, wow.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd put out stuff for goalies from time to time, and I'd always get a huge response and like, you know, questions back. And that really dialed me in. Like, people aren't helping goalies.
Yeah.
Like, and even my peers in strength and conditioning and people who are my mentors, you know, I'd ask them about it, and like some of them wouldn't even discuss the merits of it.
Like, whatever.
Like no, they don't need, you know,
yeah.
they don't need, you don't need to treat them special.
Yeah. For all you goalies out there, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's like, but they are, you know, like they're,
sure.
It's, you know, it's like, again, it's like, does the pitcher do the same training as outfielder, or does the quarterback do the same training as a line? Like, you know, it's not everything, but it's that sort of 30% that makes all the difference. So, and then really I want to do, I think you know me well enough, I'm a bit of a type A, but I want to do it really, really well. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to talk to the goalies. And it's funny because I was in a mastermind group, and one of the guest speakers this one time was a guy he was the first guy to do $1 million ebook launch.
Wow.
Years and years ago. Very smart guy, very nice guy, but he was doing what's called a hot seat. So you can sit on, like, you basically come to the front, you sit in a chair, and you have a problem. He asks you questions and kind of gives you advice. And it's pretty, like, I'm also a bit of an introvert if I don't, you know, you know, and so it's like, but I was like, no way, like, this guy's here. I pay a lot of money to be in this group. I'm going to get on that chair. And so I had a newer product, and it just wasn't selling the way I thought it would. So I was going to get some help from him. So I said, well, this is for hockey goalies. And he said, but a soccer goalie could do it too, right? It's like, nope, like completely different sports. He's like, when I drive out of my subdivision, I see 15 fat people. I don't see a single hockey goalie. You know, and that was pretty much the end of the conversation. So, you know, and then
so basically, I had no idea, like.
And just like that's a stupid idea. Yeah, like make it so that soccer goalies can do it too, or lose 50 pounds or whatever. Yeah. So, but then the coaches who ran the group, who I really had a great rapport with, and who knew me, you know, they're like, if you want to make $1 million, then this is the wrong business. You know, I don't think you're trying to make $1 million with this. Yeah. So you're on the right track. Yeah. And so, I just went all in with the goalies, because that's sort of what turns my crank. Yeah. And I think there's some other people, you know, and you for one, that do a great job with skaters, and, you know, and so. But
there's so much out there for players. And I think, you know, we were talking about before, but I think that goalie position is definitely neglected. You know, it's neglected in practice by coaches. And it's not, no offense to coaches, but you just don't know. You never played net. You're like, so it's neglected there. Most players don't respect the goaltenders. You know how many times I talk to players now about like shooting low, warm them up, don't hit him in the head. He's your goaltender. She's your goaltender. Like, I'm on them all the time. I love goaltender. I played a little bit growing up, like I'm talking a couple times. Mm-hmm. Loved road hockey, goalie, like loved all that stuff, right? But now that I'm a coach, I really respect the goaltenders. I try to tweak things for them a little bit. I'm not a goalie coach. I'm not saying I am. But I think this kind of stuff, this specific like flexibility, mobility. I mean, even the other day I was watching one of your videos about just how to catch a ball. And, you know, for anybody who's like, we all teach our kid to catch balls with their bare hands to start. Right, for sure. Catch them with 2 hands, one hand. Then you put a baseball glove on or a goalie catcher mitt, and now that pocket's not where your hand is; it's up top. And your video is awesome. It really kind of, for me, even like this was within the last 48 hours. I was like, shit. Like, I never even thought of that. And my little guy loves playing net. He loves playing baseball. I'm like, I gotta teach. Like, and he catches okay, but like I want him to be aware of that, even at a young age. Like, remember, you're not catching with your hand; you're catching with your. Because it'll hurt too. Like, I'm sure you've gotten some shots in the game where it's all padded, but it hurts if it's a hard shot in the mitt, you know, right in the palm of your hand, right? So, but anyways, you're going through so much. I think a lot of really, really cool content in a niche that is not, you know, vastly covered. And if it is, sometimes, you know, we've talked about this earlier, but it's just not very well covered. Like some of the people that are doing stuff out there, just it isn't good advice, you know? So again, finding someone, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on, because I know even in our, like even with TPH, we have a lot of goaltenders that come to our programs, and we don't have specific goaltender training for them. You guys can come for a discounted price. We'd love to have you. Basically, no offense, as a target. We will help you. We'll work with you a little bit, but we're not goalie coaches, right? But adding stuff like this to their repertoire at home or wherever they're doing their privates or things like that, it would be, I think it'd be great, you know, and there's a plethora of stuff on there as far as all sorts of things for goalies, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. One of my missions with it is to, you know, like I have sort of the downloadable programs, but one of my missions is to make it accessible so that, you know, any goalie anywhere in the world can get information that will help them stop more pucks and have fewer injuries, even if they never spend a penny.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, because when you look at the metrics, like in warm up a goalie will go into like 100 butterflies, you know, and you look at the wear and tear, and then, sometimes, you know, trainers who maybe don't have the experience or maybe the background to really be able to analyze the biomechanics, the anatomy, you know, will make exercises that are like, okay, now you're going to go in your butterfly, you know, and when you're off the ice, because that's kind of what you do on the ice. And it's like, ooh, you know, that's maybe not.
No, for sure. Now, just because you mentioned the butterfly, okay, would you agree that the butterfly has changed over the last 5-10 years as far as with the equipment and how the equipment allows goaltenders to kind of flatten those pads out a little bit better? Because back in the day, I know goalies wore their pads tight. So their pads were snug to their body, or to their legs, I should say. And then when they went down to the butterfly, they literally, like, if you weren't able as a young kid to like get your legs flared out, you weren't going to be a very good goalie. And now with the equipment, you still got to be able to flare your legs. But man, with the gear, the way it sits now, those pads literally are so loose on some of these goalies, they just flip up and seal the bottom of the net. Does that change a little bit about of how that mechanics kind of, how goalies, I guess, train for that? Or like, do you need to be that goalie or that young kid that his legs go right out like this out his sides, or you know, can you get away with not being as, you know, like let's say the young kid wants to be a goalie right now and he's like, man, I cannot go down like Johnny can with his legs like out on a 90, you know, making a straight line across with both legs. Is there still opportunity, or is there a way to train that to have a better butterfly?
Well, I think, and again, I'm not an expert on the technique or the equipment, but I think the equipment has been sort of re-engineered to accommodate that type of training. And I think in particular, like with the pro guys, it's a stock knee stack, like how high your knees off the ice. But with kids, there's nothing to stop you from adding another shim there, which actually takes some of the torque off your knee and your hips.
Right.
So that's one thing too. If you got a kid, I would probably suggest trying to do that.
It's a great idea. So basically, if this is my knee and I'm dropping down, adding a little piece of pad there, so I'm not going as far down and up, which makes sense. Yeah.
So there's less torque on the hip, less torque on the knee, less torque on the ankle. And it, like I did a video on it, and because I just went into like Pete Sports and I was like, guy, do you have like a knee stack thingy? And he like goes in the back and comes out with exactly what I wanted.
Oh, okay.
And people were like, what's that called? Where did you get that? I'm like, just go to the hockey store
and say
the knee stack thing. They'll know, you know, but, so that's one thing. You know, the other thing that's interesting, and so I go to tons of like, goalie coaching conferences and things like that just to listen. Again, not that I want to start dishing out like, this is where I think you should, you know, but so I can listen to what they're teaching and what they're seeing and what they're working on. And then maybe too, offer some thoughts on how we can make it less harmful on their body. Cause it's like a baseball pitcher. Like it's like nobody is designed to be a goalie. Nobody is designed to be a baseball pitcher. It just isn't great for you. But lots of things we do aren't great for us, but we love them. You know, marathon running isn't great for some people, but they love it and they do it. I totally lost my train of thought.
No, but going to conferences and like learning what those guys are saying.
So then when, you know, a lot of them too are talking about a flare, and they're like, we don't need a square flare. Like when we have a flat flare, where's the puck go? Right? Straight back out to the shooter. You know, they're like, we almost want a little narrower flare. So then that puck's going to go. Now, I think it's nice to have the tool in your toolbox, but to be able to learn, you know, okay, no, I really want this much flare. But you know, some of the guys like really only use about 90 degrees flair. So, I mean, I think if you've got it, that's great. I think if you don't have it, then you just need to adapt your game.
And definitely, that's a really good point about the equipment. And I didn't really thought about that, but even those little shims that are in there and stuff, like that allows those goalies to hopefully have a little bit less wear and tear on their body, right? Over the long term, which I think is huge. And even like for you coming in on it, on the other side of it, sometimes like, let's be honest, 95% of the goaltenders that are playing right now, even at the NHL level, have no idea of all the biomechanics that are going on in their body. They're athletic. You know, you look at some of them are really interesting to see how they were at the start of their career to now. Like even a guy like Holtby, who's unbelievable, just won a cup, super athletic, very all over the place, overextending, overplaying basically. Now they've settled him down, and now he's very positional and way smarter. Carey Price, like you know, so you look at these and they're smart about it. But now when you come in on the angle, you come in on like, no, I'm not a goalie coach. My lane is the biomechanics and how this is all working, how to train it, how to get stronger, how to get more flexible. That's it. That's huge. And sometimes goalies like to hear the fact that like they respect the fact that you play net, so you understand a little bit of what they're going through as far as making saves and things like that, right? Maybe not to the speed that they're doing it at, but you get it. And then now you add what you know from education and from experience and all that stuff. I mean, it validates everything for these guys. And the biggest thing, I think the biggest validation is they have success, or they feel like, whoa, I can get in my splits better. I move way better to my left or my right, or more power off my push, or things like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I see my job is to give them tools so they can do what their goalie coach wants them to do.
Yeah.
So when I listen to goalie coaches talk, I can see, number one, where the trends are, because some of these conferences, like you have the head of Swedish goaltending development there. You've got,
some
like
legit guys, right? And,
you know, these guys that are going to direct the trends, and so you see what is important to them and what they're working on and where maybe it's going next, because it's just a big pendulum, you know, and but you can try to give those tools and
that's cool. And you were involved with Buffalo, right? With the Buffalo Sabres for a little, or you went to their development camp, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Have you done work with any other NHL teams?
Not officially with the team like that. So I have good relationships with some of the NHL goalie coaches. So sometimes they'll just send me video like, why does he do this? Or, you know, like, this is what I want him to do. This is what he does. Yeah. Is there something we can do off ice to try to help that? So it's just kind of cool like that. It's not sort of an official thing.
But more of a kind of almost like a consultant role a little bit on like, so that way you're not tied to one team. You can kind of work with goalie coaches individually on clients they have or goalies they have.
Yeah. And like, I think of it almost just as a professional courtesy, but I like that. Like, I like just having the freedom to sort of talk with and help whoever I want. You know, it's funny because I've done some work with USA Hockey, and so, you know, sometimes they'll say like, well, do you feel weird because it's, you know, like you're helping like the enemy? It's like, no, like I want to help goalies anywhere in the world. And if you guys are interested in trying to help your goalies, then I'm happy to help.
No, that's great. And you were talking earlier about getting an opportunity to go overseas a little bit and work with some different camps and just some different organizations overseas. And you're heading out next week, is it?
Yeah, next week. That's a little more business meetings and stuff. But I'll head back. I'll head to the UK next week. But I was over in Slovakia and Czech Republic working with their hockey federations and running seminar for their coaches. And that was just amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you notice any big differences when you go over there as far as with their hockey community compared to our hockey community? I mean, obviously there are, but is there anything that kind of stands out with you at all? Or like, meaning, are coaches over there more receptive? Are they, friendlier with stuff? Are they more interactive, or is it all kind of the same, do you think? Well, basically are hockey coaches everywhere?
Somewhat, I think. Now it's really hard because there was a huge language barrier. So it was, and you know me, like I get pretty excited. So I'm pretty animated when I'm presenting because I'm really excited about what I'm doing. And then you look out at a room with like 40 coaches and they're just stone-faced staring at you like, and then an interpreter says it, but then they're still just stone-faced, you know? So it's a little hard to tell, but just in the conversation with the people that, that brought me over and their assessment of how it went, they would say, and I think it's the same, like they say, oh, geez, like these are some of the older coaches and I don't think they're going to really like these ideas or they probably won't come. And, but then they'd say, oh, did you see so-and-so? And he was trying the exercises and, so I think I think they have a very different way that is a little more, like sort of driven from the coaches thinking like, okay, well, we have to be really athletic and kind of acrobatic. And so we're going to do, somersaults, and then we're going to jump up, and then we're going to kick a soccer ball, and rather than coming from, I think I'm actually really fortunate that I didn't grow up playing hockey. Girls didn't play hockey when I was a kid at all in London. And so I think I'm lucky because I don't have any bias of what I did when I was a kid. I really do come at it from, okay, what are the injuries? What's the anatomy, the physiology, the biomechanics of this, and then I put the pieces together. So it's a different perspective. But I mean, I thought they were receptive. Certainly the guys at the higher level, that brought me there, they were really keen to sort of push the needle. Like Sweden is very into it. And they're even doing the Swedish Hockey Federation is sponsoring scientific research looking at the prevalence of hip injuries in goalies, and then looking at, some of the causes. And this is like a really well thought out, proper research project. So they're interested in it.
They're kind of leading the charge right now on goaltending. I think I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Hockey Canada, a couple other countries went to Sweden to find out what they're doing and how to help better develop our goaltenders, which again goes to that thing we were talking about earlier, where why can't we share? Right. And I mean, Sweden's not going to get worse. They're going to get better. Maybe Canada gets a little bit better. That's fine. At the end of the day, what happens? We have better competition all over the place. Everyone, you know what I mean? We can help. And I was amazed getting involved with Hockey Canada a little bit in the last year or two, or I guess 2-3 years, at how much they help other countries. And because overall Canada's looked at as, they're the hockey mecca, right? Which is probably a little bit true. But I think countries like the US and these like Finland, like Sweden, these countries are good, and they put a lot of time and effort into their hockey and their sports in general, but we're talking hockey. So, but it's really cool to see behind the scenes how much they do share, and they do kind of share their knowledge and do these kind of coaching clinics where they're helping each other out. And it's really, I think it's refreshing to see it at the high levels, and sometimes I get really frustrated that doesn't happen at the lower levels, right? You have 2 Pee-wee coaches that won't share anything because they think they have the secret to winning, Yeah. It's frustrating, but it's part of the game, I guess,
Yeah, I think they really have done an amazing job of creating that structure, like in Sweden. And I mean, part of it, I think Canada is at a slight disadvantage because of our geography, but they have a curriculum for developing goalies and for developing coaches, and they have regional conferences where everyone comes together and shares, and that it is that. It seems like it's that real environment of sharing. And same thing, like I know, when we're at these things, those guys like Thomas Magnuson, they'll sit down and go over like, here's how we set it up in Sweden, and they'll share that with, cool. Slovakia or Hungary or, this is exactly how we did it. Not, and like even, I don't know, it probably happens at hockey camps, but goalie, like I think there's still goalie coaches that black out the glass when they have a camp.
Well,
it's secret.
You know what? Yeah. And
so then to get them to be like, hey, let's come up with a uniform idea of development. No.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I've heard of that in Toronto, and not to knock on Toronto because it's a big city, and but it's like it's such a cesspool, right? It's everyone's hockey, and when you're in that hockey community. But I have heard of that. I've heard of skill coaches going up to, and like, let's say I walk into a rink because I'm on next, and somebody else is on the ice, and this guy coming over and get out of here, like like basically booting guys out because they don't want to, like. And if anyone's that insecure about what they're doing, or I think when I was younger, I was when I first started this whole thing, I was way more like elbows up, like I'm like kill the competition. I want to, I want to be the best, whatever. Right now, I honestly I'll tell anybody anything. Like, what do you want to know? Start a hockey school? No problem. Strongly advise against it, but no problem. Here's how you do it. This is what you do. Like I had a gentleman that I did a coaching clinic, and he came up to me. He's like, hey, I'm looking to start a hockey school in Kitchener. I'm like, give me a call anytime. Like if you, because my thing is I made so many mistakes, and there were so many bumps in the road, and there were so many things that went wrong. That man, if I could save you, if you're a nice person and I like it, and if I can save you a couple headaches along the way, I think it's huge. And it isn't what you think it is. Right. It's like people look at you, they'll be like, you drive a nice car. It's a sick job. Like, I want that job. It's like, you know what? It took me like 15 years
to get to the point where I can like have a weekend off.
Yeah.
And thank goodness I have the world's most understanding husband. Like my marriage survived, because I think if I was married to anyone else,
he's a solid dude though, man.
Absolutely would not have. Like 100%.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's too like to help. Here's how you do it, but also this is what it looks like from the inside. You know? Yeah,
right. No, exactly. And I think that's like, even, I mean, when I started doing videos and stuff like that, I called you and said, hey, can I have a coffee with you? Because I knew that that you'd been doing it for a long time, and you gave me some great insight and some really, really good advice. But just being able to pick up the phone, knowing that you're not like, maybe next week, and then like slough. Like, I don't really want to talk to you about it because I'm doing really well with it, and I really don't want to share it because the YouTube and the internet's not that big.
It's pretty small.
There's not a lot of space on there, and we can't afford any other people on there. And so, and even for me, I'm like, there's a lot of new skill coaches that have popped up, like guys that have played in the area that are now doing it, and it's great. Like, no problem with it. It gives parents variety. They can kind of see what they like, what they don't like. Doesn't matter. But for me, and just like you, like sometimes I've finally learned in the last little bit how to say no. Like, I can't do that. Sorry, like I'm unavailable, or I want to go spend time with my wife or whatever it is. Like I'm not working Friday night at 8 in Strathroy. Sorry, like I'm just not going to do that. But it's nice to finally get to that point. And going back to like getting a vehicle. I remember I bought a 2009 Honda Ridgeline. It was like 2011, but I bought a 2-year-old Ridgeline, and I pulled into the rank, and sure enough, like one of the first ads I see, business must be going well. I'm like, dude, I was driving a hatchback Mazda 5 from like 05, like, and this is an 09. It's not even new. Yeah. So literally I'd park it behind the rink for like probably the next couple of months just to avoid anybody thinking I'm doing so well. Yeah. But it's that mentality, right? Yeah. Sometimes just like, man, I still can't pay rent very well. Like, but I'm trying. Like, I'm just trying. And so frustrating though. It's like, oh man. So I'm very much like, I hear somebody that, you know what, we just bought a cottage. Like, good for you, man. That's awesome. Maybe we bought a new vehicle. Like, awesome. You know, and especially if I know someone's worked hard and had success, and, like, good for you, man. Like, it's nice to get up in the morning and enjoy what you drive. Not worrying if it's going to start or not. Yeah. Like, you've earned that. You've earned that.
Not have to bump start it down the street.
Yeah, totally. Well, listen, I really, really want to do this again. I'm going to finish off with just a couple quick little rapid fire questions for you. Nothing major, but just a couple things. Number one thing for you, what are some things that you like doing kind of away from work? Like stuff that you're, as someone that's in the hockey profession, do you go home when you're done and watch hockey games, or would you rather go for a nice hike or walk or like anything? It could be sports, could be reading, whatever. Like, is there anything that you kind of passionate about away from what you do?
I like everything. Like I do like watching hockey on TV, and it's fun because I watch it from a different perspective. Sure. But I love to just get outside and hike or snowshoe or run or ski or snowboard or, use my body. I feel, just blessed that how lucky am I that I can just run and jump. And, but I love reading. I read a lot about business. It's sort of, I think when you stop being an athlete competitively, business almost fills that part of you that sort of feeds your competitive spirit. But yeah, I love to cook actually, which is something people wouldn't know about me. Yeah, for sure. My grandmother was Greek and she had a restaurant, oddly enough. But I think I inherited some of that DNA, so I'm a pretty good cook. Yeah. Good.
Well, this is years ago now, but you and Paul were doing half marathon or marathons, were you not?
Yeah, we did 3 marathons. Poor Paul. Yeah, Paul was a football player. I was a runner.
No, he's a big athletic guy.
It was kind of unfair, but yeah, bless him. God, husband of the year. It's our anniversary on Sunday, 23 years.
No way.
Yeah. But
it's crazy. And you're only like 42.
I know.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, we were married straight out of high school. We did three fulls, and then we sort of felt like, we've been there, done that. If you're looking to do one, do the Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C. It's amazing. Awesome? Yeah, it's amazing. And then we did a couple halves actually. Like I think last year around this time we did our last half, and now we kind of feel about the halves. Like been there, done that. That's good.
Yeah. There'll be a 10K, then a 5K, then a walk, then a walk.
I'll be out doing but I'll be trying to sneak into the kids, try. Yeah.
It's funny what you said. Like, I'm so blessed to be able to, walk, run, jump. I think it's part of aging a little bit, but I'm not joking you, man. I have those thoughts like probably daily, or like, cause I love running still. I still able to work out and stuff. And I'm like almost looking like, okay, when's this going to give out? Like, when's this knee going to just go? You know what I mean? And I swear I think about this like pretty often about just being thankful and just like, man, I'm so lucky that and then every once in a while, I don't know about you, but I'll walk up a stair or something and like, oh, like just like something to tweak. I'm like, please don't be long term. Like it's just be a little, it usually goes away, which I'm lucky, but it's definitely, because man, think back when we were like 20, 25, 30, like invincible, nothing, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things where I totally agree and fortunate, and obviously you've taken care of, like, I don't even think you've aged since I've known you.
Yeah.
Hey, you got elastic bands right now, just pulling your face back, like, hey.
yeah. I've got these frowny lines from scowling at people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, best trip that you've been on. So whether it's with hockey that kind of took you somewhere, or whether it's just kind of you and Paul going somewhere, but is there any best places that you'd recommend?
I love traveling anywhere, so I feel like every trip is a best trip, but I loved Scotland.
Yeah.
And we climbed Ben Nevis, which is the highest peak in the British Isles, but it's not like the British Isles don't have high peaks, so it's like a 6 hour, but it's a good grind. And I love Scotland. I would move there in a second.
Yeah, eh?
Yeah.
Was weather decent when you were there? Was it nice, or was it just the same?
Wait 5 minutes. Yeah. So it was cool. Like, it will snow like blizzard, and then the sun will come out, and then it'll rain, and then the sun will, and then it'll hail. And it is all seasons in one day. But that's the thing. Like, when we went in March and people were like, oh, the weather's going to be awful. It's like, does anyone go to Scotland for the weather? Like, to me, it's very much like, it's like the autumn. Like, I love the autumn too, because even if it's gray and rainy, there's just a beautiful contrast. Yeah. And to me, it is soothing. I don't know. I love it. Yeah. Scotland is very much like that to me now. Yeah. It's cool. Just gorgeous. Yeah.
Very cool. And anything new or upcoming that's kind of exciting that you're working on, or that you're, and not that you have to like share everything, but is there anything kind of new and exciting? Like, is the UK trip something that you're kind of looking forward to as far as some meetings and things like that?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, and just it'll be a nice environment to learn too. I'm also going to attend a conference, so nice to just learn and get re-energized. And then Paul's going to come over, and we'll spend 5 days vacation. Good. So that'll be fantastic. I actually one of my online programs is called Turning Pro, and it's a private online coaching program. Yeah. And so last year I started running these just 2-day camps. So the emphasis is on the off-ice training, but there's a couple on-ice sessions as well. I bring in a coach who runs the on-ice. But I actually just confirmed that one of them is going to be in Breckenridge, Colorado. So,
nice. You're doing the camp there.
Yeah, I'm doing one of I run 3. But so just yesterday I firmed up that one in Breckenridge, which will be fantastic. So I love the area. I used to go skiing there with my dad. And
sweet.
Yeah.
And how many, is it players, goaltenders, or?
Yeah, just goalies. Okay. And it's just open to the goalies who are in that Turning Pro coaching program. So like each camp will have like 6 to 8 goalies there. So it's very, it really is very sort of high end, private kind of feel. So that's really cool. That'll be really fun. Oh, that's awesome. Roadie, yeah.
Very good. And if people want to find you, or people want to look you up, or people want to check out what you're up to and what you're doing and how your trip in the UK is?
If you want to see how my trip in the UK is, that would be my private Instagram, which is just Moving Mountain, Moving MTN, at Moving MTN. And that's be pictures of coffee, vacation, and YouTube.
There you go.
But then if you're interested in goalie type stuff, it's just at goalie training on Instagram, goalietrainingpro.com.
Sweet.
On the interwebs.
All right. Awesome. Well, we'll link all that stuff up when we get this up. And thank you very much for coming in. That was awesome.
No, it's really so fun to chat with you.
Yeah, great to catch up. And I'd love to, as we're talking, there's like so many other things I want to talk about. And I'm like, I'll try to keep it online. But we'll definitely have to do this again and go on some big tangents.
Yeah, that sounds, I love tangents. Yeah, we could maybe do it next time with beer or something. I would get some good 100%. Tangents. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, deal.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's do it.
Deal.
All right. Okay. Thank you.